What is going on, YouTube people? Northeast Ohio Cards and Comics here for the Sunday week in review. I hope everyone had a wonderful Thanksgiving. Had some good food. I'm still working my way through some leftovers. Um, Maybe did some Black Friday shopping. Not really for me. I worked retail for a very long time in my college years. Served my time on the opposite side of Black Friday, so I usually tend to stay in that day as much as humanly possible. Did look through, trying to find some deals on some stuff. A lot of people were doing Black Friday sales. Didn't pull the trigger on anything. Went to the local card show earlier today, recording this Saturday evening, fresh off the Ohio State-Michigan game. Whoops. I like Ohio State, but I'm not like live or die by Ohio State. I didn't grow up in Columbus, so I never didn't go to Ohio State. Obviously, I'd prefer that they win, but it sucks. But I'm not going to lose a ton of sleep over it like a lot of diehard Ohio State fans potentially could or would. But in general, I strongly dislike Michigan, so is what it is. Local show today was pretty good, pretty busy. I think a lot of people went first thing because they wanted to clear out before the Ohio State game started. I didn't make any pickups, was intrigued by a few things, but didn't end up pulling the trigger. I'm still kind of in recoup funds mode post the Hulk 181 purchase. So if something would have really caught my eye, I could have pulled the trigger on it. But a couple things that I was slightly intrigued by, but nothing grabbed me that much to bust the old wallet out or bust the card case out to try to potentially swing a deal. Bunch of stuff to go over today. Nothing too much newsworthy. Kind of a quiet week, I think, because of the holiday. The biggest thing that I saw was gem rates data. Shout out to Gem Rate, friend of the show, friend of the channel. Last week, not the week of Thanksgiving, but the week prior, PSA set their record for most cards graded in a week. I think they got over 200,000. I forget the specific number, but they absolutely smashed. So we'll see. I'm expecting that we get a PSA blog / community update / post this coming week. We'll see what happens. I guess I should be prepared for the old breaking news video for whenever the shenanigans drop with the PSA price information. But I do think we get that this week based off of everything that Nat Turner said, that he wants to bring it back this year. We're now, starting next week, we're down to 1 month left in the year. So, and based off his IG comments, which would have been a full 2 weeks ago now, saying in 2 weeks, we expect to have regular service back. The big things are pricing, and is there any sort of cap / limiter / whatever. We'll see. So I'm not going to speculate on all that stuff. We'll just wait and see what comes out, and then we'll talk about it then. So probably be a video on that at some point in time this week. And then depending on what the pricing is, maybe we'll do something with like what cards now make sense to kind of head that direction. I think it's more important for upcoming products than I do for, well, it's probably equally as important for like upcoming products as it is for cards already floating around in the market. I'm sure a lot of people have piles of stuff ready to go that make more sense at a $100 level than it did at the 150 level. You could be sure of that. But we'll see what they bring out. Maybe it won't be $100. Maybe it'll be less. My guess is it starts at 100 and then they tweak it as they need it, potentially downward. So, almost forgot today's video is sponsored by our good friends over at myslabs.com, home of 1% seller fees. Absolutely fantastic website. Lots of good deals to be had over there. If you have your cards posted to other marketplaces, you should absolutely have them posted on MySlabs as well. And they have become my first stop when looking to buy pretty much anything, and that goes for comic books as well, as they do have a lot of comic book listings on there. That's the first place that I check now, and then I go over to look to see what stuff is going for on the other platforms, because if people are pricing stuff correctly, stuff should be more liquid over there because you're saving that 10% seller fee. eBay is going to hit you with 14, 13, 14.5%. MySlab is going to hit you with 1% plus 3% for PayPal goods and services. So it honestly gives you an edge. Give it a little bit of a price break. Maybe you don't even go the full 10%. Go 5 or 10% below the cheapest listing on eBay if you really want to move the card. And more people are beginning to put their eyes that way as long as you price things correctly. So let's get a quick word from our sponsor and then dive into today's video.
Tired of paying 10%, 15%, or more to sell your cards, comics, and digital collectibles? How does 1% sound? Too good to be true? Well, not anymore. MySlabs.com is the web's premier user-driven marketplace for buying and selling slabbed cards, sealed wax, and now slabbed comics and digital collectibles. So the next time you're forced to pay 10% or more to sell something from your collection, head over to MySlabs.com and join the 1% revolution.
Let's go ahead and dive in. We're going to hit on all three sports, a little bit more basketball than the other two. I did the big baseball video this week, but the day that I recorded that video, Wander Franco signed his absolutely monster extension. I think like 12 years, 220, 240 million, I think. I forget the exact numbers, but he should be in Tampa Bay for a very long time unless he's traded. And as per usual, when a player gets a contract extension, their cards do tend to get a little bump from it. Now, I will say the bump doesn't always hold. I think in this case it will because we're in the middle of the off season, but we'll see. And it also depends on how big the bump is. We don't really know yet. It's still only been a few days. But this is Wander Franco's main stuff. This is his PSA 10 Bowman. I pulled his Chrome, his Mojo Refractor, and his paper prospects you can see down here. I did pull his auto, but only one has sold since, and I actually think it sold prior to the extension. So there just really wasn't enough data to go off of from that for his first Bowman auto. But maybe we could revisit that in a future video. But paper stayed flat at 0%. I guess that's not super surprising. The Chrome is up 30%, and the Mojo from the Mega Box is up 23%. The interesting part here is, which I didn't realize this was that high already, the pop on the Chrome is already over 10K. That just seems like a lot for a first Bowman. I could be wrong. The Mojo's sitting at 3284. The paper is actually sitting at 6100, but that also could be that it just doesn't make sense to send paper into PSA. Who knows? Paper a little tougher grades, but also way less desirable in the secondary market. It is what it is. A lot of baseball purists still like the paper, but the modern money likes the Chrome shiny, so that's the one that gets the love. So base Chrome's up to 235. Paper's just sitting under 100, and the Mojo's sitting at 350. Pop on the Mojo's a little over 3K. Once again, I'm always a sucker for the Mojo / choice looking cards. So Wander gets a little bump. We'll see how long it continues, and then we'll see where it holds. My guess is it probably keeps going up a little bit, then it'll probably pull back just a little bit. And once again, we've been talking about this a lot lately on the channel. A lot of people are very on both sides of the fence when it comes to where will the labor unrest affect the card market. Some people say no, and then some people say yes. I think it just depends on how ugly it gets, and it's kind of like a we'll see type situation. But time will tell on that one. The only other baseball one I had, actually, originally, the Franco was the only one I was going to talk about because, like I said, I just recorded that big baseball video earlier this week. But then I noticed, so the Soto Pink Refractor, we've talked about this card a billion times on the channel, jumped in price this week and jumped quite a bit. It went up to $1,500 from $1,100. I looked at the $1,500 sale. It looks legit enough. It was a buy it now, straight buy it now at $1,500, which isn't like super unreasonable. Because I did look, there was no other. I think the next cheapest one listed was for $1,900. So it wasn't like, sometimes when you see the high buy it now that's a little above current comps, you question it. And I did look, there was none for sale cheaper. That was the cheapest one available. Another one sold earlier this week was listed at $1,500. It went best offer at like $12 or $12.50. And then two others sold this week. So 4 of these have sold in a 7-day period. I actually looked. This is the most to sell in a time period this short in like 6 months. The last time this many sold this close together was like June. So, and Soto didn't win the MVP or anything like that. This all happened after that stuff was announced. I don't know if this card just got pumped from somewhere or what the deal is that this many would sell this week. 2 were auctions, which I kind of get. But then the other 2 were a best offer and just a straight someone just slapped the buy it now button. To me, $1,500 seems like a reasonable enough price for this if you really want one. It's only pop $650. And we've talked about the uniqueness of this card a ton on the channel. So like I said, if someone really wanted one, I could see it because it was the cheapest available. And these honestly don't come up for auction a ton. So I don't know. We'll see what the next one sells for, but I'm so hesitant on eBay comps anymore. It's just such a guessing game, but I did my due diligence and at least check to make sure that nothing looked too suspect on this one. And everything seems to line up with it being fairly okay. But like I said, time will tell whenever the next one sells, but these do not pop up a ton on auction with it being under pop 700. So we'll see where the next one goes. Switching over to basketball. Trae Young stuff's been finally starting to actually rebound and tick back up again. I'm guessing this is a combination of eventually stuff just gets too cheap and people are like, nah, I'm going to go ahead and dive in. I'm sure it also helped that the Hawks are just on a tear right now. I think they've won 7 or 8 straight after kind of just starting the season ho-hum. I think they actually had a losing record for a little bit, but they've really turned it on lately. And Trae's been playing really well. The Hawks in general look really good. And his stuff is slightly ticking back up again. This is over the last 7 days. I pulled his silver, his base, and his red ice. I'll talked about the red ice a bunch on the channel. The only reason I pulled this is because 2 did sell this week. And this is only pop 170, so sometimes you don't always get the most data points on this one. That one's up 10%. His silver's up 12%. The base is actually down slightly at 10%. I'm not super surprised by that. Usually the silvers and the reds and that sort of stuff tend to be more volatile, so they'll go up first typically. They also go down first typically. His stuff got real cheap. His true red sold about a week ago. I think 2 of them sold for just over 3K, which is stupid cheap for that card. That's a numbered. I forget what it's out of, but absolutely gorgeous looking card, especially with the color match and all that jazz. The red ice to me is like the poor man's version of that card. But Trae stuff definitely picking up a little bit of steam, like I said, with their hot play. We'll see where it goes from here, if it's sustainable or not. The biggest news in the NBA, I'm going to switch these around real quick. Ja Morant. So at time of recording, once again, I'm recording this late Saturday afternoon / early evening. We do not yet know the actual timetable for his return. So he kind of had a weird non-contact knee twist injury thing, like stepped on someone's foot, looked like an ankle injury, turned out to be a knee. Woj reported late Friday night that it was a knee sprain, and that the Grizzlies seemed optimistic. The initial concern and the tweets from both Ja Morant and Woj earlier in the day were very concerning. But I'm still holding my breath on this one. Colin Sexton had a knee sprain that was supposed to be potentially mild, and then he ended up being out for the season once they got in there and did the surgery on it. Now, I don't know if this is going to require surgery or not. We'll see what the MRI says, but it did affect his card prices. So interestingly enough, I posted about this in the community post. There was actually a Silver Prism PSA 10 ending about 2 hours after all that went down, and it was still pretty low. Like, it was at $1,000. Recent comps have been about $1,400-1,500 on that. It ended up going for like $1,250 or $1,275, which makes sense given the news. If you felt a little gutsy on that, you could have pulled the trigger on it, maybe got a deal. I do think his stuff probably dips a little bit, even if he's only out a few weeks. We saw this happen last year. He sprained the ankle, which was pretty bad, and he was out for, I think, about a month with that, and his stuff definitely dipped based off that. So I'd expect this stuff to continue to dip down a little bit, but probably not a ton. Usually the cheapest we see, we went through this experience with Acuna last year, and that was a little different story because he was out for the season. Usually the biggest dip is within the first few days after the injury. Now, we still don't know what it is yet, so that'll probably keep things a little weird. But once we have a little bit of clarity on it, we'll see where his prices go. Hopefully he is not out for very long. He was having an absolutely amazing season and playing extremely well. So far for this, over the last 7 days, the average ends at $1,450, down 10%. Like I said, the last one that sold right here, actually it's probably averaging the 2 together because more than one sold yesterday. But the last one that I seen confirmed sell was $1,275, $1,250. I forget the exact number. So we'll see if that continues to trend down a little bit more. I did look at one of his other ones. Just this one just pulled up because it was down a ton. This is his Mosaic Silver. Actually, as much as I hate Mosaic Base, I do actually like the Mosaic Silvers. They actually look pretty nice. And I like the Mosaic, if that makes sense, a lot on that year. This one's down hard over the last 7 days, 37%. Started the week at 350, down to 215. And once again, we'll see where the bottom is on something like this, depending on what the injury actually is and how long he is out for. Just for the hell of it, I ran Zion numbers. The announcement came out yesterday, I believe, that he is cleared for full basketball activities. So he still needs to ramp back up. So still no timetable for when he's actually going to see game time, at least as of time of this recording. My guess is I still don't know if we see him before Christmas or maybe around Christmas. And then I think he's probably going to be on a minutes limit at least initially, and we'll see what he looks like. But it hasn't really affected his prices at all. His silver has stayed flat, and this news did come out 24 hours ago, so we'll see how this affects things over the weekend and in early next week and leading up to his return. And then his base is still slightly ticking down, down to 270, down 12% on the week. It's been floating around this number. It goes down to 270-ish, then it goes back up to 300, and it goes back down to 270-ish. So not super surprised to see this number. But we'll see where the silver goes and see where his stuff goes in general. I mean, if he comes out like gangbusters and is just, smashing rims and dunking over people, his stuff's probably going to see a spike. The question is do we think that happens, and can he stay healthy for the rest of the season, and how much do the Pelicans actually baby him? We will see. I'm still on the prospectus that I really want no part of most Zion stuff. It has nothing to do with talent. It's all injury related, and that sort of stuff is why I just don't really want to be holding any Zion cards. So interesting time to monitor his stuff with the possibility of his return sooner rather than later. Dipping in, looking at the 2020 guys really quick. Anthony Edwards' market is ticking up. LaMelo's not so much. I went back 14 days on this one because it's been that long between LaMelo's sales. Once again, his PSA 10 silver is only pop 43. There is definitely something with this card in regards to centering that causes it to be extremely rare in PSA 10. So you're always going to see a massive divide between these two. And you can see the difference here. Anthony Edwards' pop is at 249. LaMelo's is only pop 43. And I believe, once again, I would need to double check the data on this. There is an extra large amount of PSA 8s of LaMelo's silvers. So definitely bad quality control on whatever printer his stuff was coming out on. But over the last 2 weeks, LaMelo is down slightly, down 20%. Ant-Man is up 8%, give or take. He had the most ridiculous dunk I've seen this season earlier this year. Unfortunately, it was waived off due to a charge, but man, oh man, did he posterize somebody. I forget who it was, but whew. I would highly recommend YouTube searching that dunk if you did not see it already. It did make its way around NBA Twitter. So absolutely insane dunk. He's been playing pretty good. He is just fun to watch. I still don't know if he's like a alpha 1A or if he's more of a Robin when it comes to an NBA championship team. I feel the same way about LaMelo. I still feel like he's a 1B, like a Robin, not a Batman, but we'll see. But his stuff's slowly ticking down a little bit. But with the low pop, it does make it interesting on kind of how his stuff will hold up in the long term. The other thing that I looked at, because I was curious, that class has picked up a lot of steam. And I know we don't look at wax a lot on here often. I did that video a couple weeks ago. I did look at 2020 Prism wax. I ran this back to basically 60 days to right before the season started because I was just kind of curious. Because these boxes were the cheapest. Prism Hobby boxes before the season started were going for around $1,200. The cheapest by far of all the modern stuff. It has picked up. You could see in general, blasters, hangers, and hobby boxes are up about 20%, give or take. The interesting thing, sealed cello boxes haven't changed at all at 0%, and mega boxes basically have stayed flat as well. Target mega boxes are actually down slightly. Now, I do not remember the difference in um, retail exclusives between the Target versus the Walmart mega box and number of cards, but I just found it intriguing that this stuff has stayed relatively flat, where this stuff has actually gone up. So maybe there's a little bit of a buying opportunity here on the cello boxes and the mega boxes if you could find them, if wax is your thing. Not really mine per se, but with this class kind of gaining steam, we've also seen Tyrese Maxey pick things up lately. Cole Anthony stuff has done really well lately. Plus LaMelo and Ant-Man, obviously. So we're just starting to see more players from this class start to emerge a little bit, and that will help drive the wax component of all this. So see where it goes from here, but I just thought that was just kind of interesting. I wanted to pull it up and look at it with the buzz that the 2020 class has been getting. Last one to look at in basketball before we close out with a few football cards. Luka PSA 10 silver. He was out for a little bit, came back, played really well in his first game or two. I think he's only played one game since coming back. His stuff did get a little bit of a bump back with him coming back from injury. Up 10%. This is a silver PSA 10. Went from 3,800 to 4,100. We'll see where it goes from here. But his stuff in general was already trending down. Then he got hurt. Took a little bit of a bigger hit. Now he's back playing good again. We'll see where it goes from here on Luka. Hopping over to football, just two things to look at really quick. Patrick Mahomes, just wanted to check in on him. Went back 2 weeks on this because, once again, his stuff's lower pop, so you got to look at a little wider range sometimes to see enough sales to get enough data. Optic Hollow up a little bit, up 16% in a PSA 10. PSA 9 actually down a little bit. And then the silvers are slightly trending down again. PSA 10 silver did 67.50, and a PSA 9 is back down to under 1,400. So it did get a little bump up there, 2 weeks ago when he had that really big game on Sunday Night Football, I believe, and then or Monday Night Football, and then it's been pulling back kind of since then, even though they keep winning. Other than that one game, he's played fine, but they still don't look like the old Chiefs, if that makes sense. We'll see where they go. If they keep tearing off wins, I think his stuff will start to slowly tick back up again. But it does seem like people are at least a little spooked on the high price point to get into him. And it also just could be a general state of, the sports card markets in general slowly pulling back. So he could be caught up in a little bit of a crosshairs there. We'll see where this one continues to go as well. Mahomes is always divisive, and his prices are always interesting because it kind of gives you a general reference for how everything's doing. The other one, which was really interesting, I normally don't talk about this very much, Tom Brady's PSA 10 Bowman Chrome. Kind of is one of his iconic cards, if not his most iconic card in regards to like base cards anyway. This is over the last 14 days, and this dropped over the last 7 or so. Down 10%, which you just don't normally see very often. It was going for around 2,400. It's now going for just over 20K. Not super familiar with this market because I just don't deal with Brady stuff very often. I don't talk about Brady a ton. I just found it interesting that he's dipping this last week as well. I don't know if that's people just concerned about, because he's been playing good. Last week, I guess, or 2 weeks ago, he kind of had a mediocre game. This past week, he played really good, though. I don't know. I don't know if it's people just generally concerned about the overall health of the market and they're looking to take some profits. To me, Brady is still the ultimate long-term hold, so you can kind of do whatever. This is pop 1100 on this card, so it's not super rare, but it's not like you could find one if you want one. It's not like a refractor or something like that. So I don't know. Once again, a little out of my depth on this one because I don't usually track the Brady market very closely, but I just found it interesting that Brady was slightly ticking down when that team is playing relatively well, other than one kind of stinker in there. But this happened in the last 7 days that it really dropped. So that was after his last game, which he played fine in. So we'll see where that one goes from there. We'll see if that bumps back up or if it's kind of just floats around 20K and just kind of cruises at that price for a while. So that's all I have for you boys and girls today. So like, comment, subscribe, all that jazz. Not sure what we got for videos planned for the rest of the week. I haven't put that much thought into it yet. I have a couple things bouncing around, and I'm sure we're going to get a PSA announcement at some point in time as well. But like, comment, subscribe, all the YouTube stuff down below. We will catch you guys and girls on the next one. Peace.